Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says only the United States can stop Israel from launching a ground attack on Rafah. Now, he was speaking at the World Economic Forum in the Saudi Arabian capital, Riyadh. Abbas repeated his calls for an end to the war in Gaza and for Israel to allow in more aid. And he warned Israel would try to push Palestinians out of the occupied West Bank after it's done with Gaza. Israel has been threatening to launch a full ground assault on Rafah, where more than 1.5 million people are sheltering.
What is happening in Gaza, what will happen in the coming days, and what Israel will do by invading the city of Rafah. All the Palestinians from Gaza are gathered in the city of Rafah, and only a small blow remains to get them all out. Then it would be the biggest disaster in the history of the Palestinian people. We appeal to the United States of America to ask Israel to stop the Rafah operation, because America is the only country capable of preventing Israel from committing this crime.
Zain Basravi joins us now from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. So a statement from the Palestinian President, Zain, but will it resonate or have any effect amongst the politicians where he is, or even, you might say, some impact back home?
Well, it is certainly a significant statement. It is the first time that Mahmoud Abbas has said anything like this. It is the first time a senior leader from the Palestinian Authority has said anything like this and not minced his words. But it has to be said that he is simply echoing the things that Palestinians we've been speaking to have been saying for the last 6 months, what Palestinians have been suffering in Gaza and across the West Bank for 6 months. And the reaction on the Palestinian street is likely to mirror a broader political response. The people we've been speaking to say that what they see is a speech, words from their leader that is far too late and far too weak. One person described it as the musings of an analyst, not necessarily the speech of a leader of a people that are under attack. And one person described it as Mahmoud Abbas seems to have hit his expiration date and is no longer really fit for purpose. So in terms of the mood here in Ramallah, across much of the West Bank, people have a deep lack of faith in their political leaders at these incredibly trying times for Palestinians in Gaza and across the occupied territories.
For the update, thanks very much. Zain Basravi there for us in Ramallah. Let's cross over to Abdulaziz Al-Ghashian, a researcher focusing on Saudi foreign policy at Lancaster University's Sectarianism, Proxies and Desectarianisation Project. He's live with us from Riyadh. Good to have you with us on the programme. Has President Abbas sort of missed an opportunity here to emphasise how important for Arab nations, you might say, to include Palestinians or the Palestinian voice in a future economic decision, sort of cementing a commitment that Palestine will be a state and one to do business with? A sort of psychological message could have been sent out here.
Well, firstly, it's good to join you. Thank you very much for having me. I agree. I think as a researcher and analyst of Saudi foreign policy towards Israel and the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, I've always been consumed in the past few years, really, of how can we generate more Arab support for the Palestinian issue, or how can at least, for example, Mahmoud Abbas and a diplomatic discourse can attract Arab support. And I think, personally, while we all support Mahmoud Abbas in trying to call for a cessation of hostilities and warning of the looming attack on Rafah, I think it was a missed opportunity, personally, to really gain resonance with the people and just say, basically, listen, here we are in the World Economic Forum. We are talking about regional stability. And then, for example, Minister Ajdan, for the finance minister of Saudi Arabia, was talking about regional security and development, and that we can't have regional security without regional development, etc. That he could have said, well, it is the occupation. Without an occupation, we can't have regional development. That basically we would love to participate more and become more
He could have also, let me just jump in there, he could have also stopped some of the hypotheticals that are being sort of muted around at the moment. Some regional capitals already talking about the day after, and we've heard this from many quarters. Saudi Arabia has said, certainly one of the last statements a couple of months was, no normalisation with Israel until a two-state solution is firmly in place. Is that a red line, do you think, that Saudi Arabia is not going to cross? Or is it a position that could be a flexible one, depending on the ground realities?
I'll be very honest. I think as much as it's an ideal situation, the position was always a holding position. It was a starting point of negotiations. And basically, when it comes to the Saudi position regarding the Palestinians, the essence is, yes, a Palestinian state. But I think more essentially, it is what the Palestinian Authority will accept. And therefore, when one has that position, and Saudi officials historically have been, on the record for saying, what is good for them is good for us, as in good for them, Palestinians is good for us. And therefore, what does this mean? This means that there is a negotiative process taking place. Of course, this cannot be separated from the American-Saudi situation or negotiations taking place as well. So there's a great deal of balancing, and also there's a great deal of moving parts that we just, it just makes it very difficult to see normalization.
There are those moving parts because consensus is required here, isn't it, at the World Economic Forum? Because before the US Secretary of State arrives, one would assume that you need a united Arab voice, especially at this moment in time, at such a delicate time when Rafah is the focus, because a divided voice only emboldens Israel and its supporters.
Yes. Well, this is exactly what I think they're trying to do. That's why yesterday was an important signal, I think, by meeting, having the Arab Coordinative Group, the 6-member Arab Coordination Group on the Ministerial Coordination Group met yesterday. And I think it was a sign or another attempt to kind of create another unified front, at least publicly. To illustrate the fact that this is where the Arab position is going to be. This is where the position of those who are going to play an active role in the day after in Gaza are where they're at.
Yeah.
And basically the situation now is that the United States can't do it alone. It needs Arab partners. Arab partners, also the Arab states, know that they can't do it alone. And this war has unfortunately morphed to one big mess where there's going to be an external intervention, an external proactivity. Therefore, it's to coordinate this proactivity. No one could do this alone.
No.
With that said, the United States is the only actor that could provide political leverage on Israel. And that's what the Saudis and the Arab states are doing. They're saying basically, listen, but we could deliver on certain things. We can't deliver on Israel. This is what we're ready to do for the day after. Now you have to deliver on Israel and what they're going to do for the day after. And that was the coordinated, unified stance.
And we will see what happens as we unpick this throughout our news. For the moment, Abdulaziz Al-Ghashian, thanks for joining us from Riyadh.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.